Hi, Gene.
You made it all right?
Oh, God bless her. Yes.
Using a magnifying? It's loud.
Is that better?
Slightly.
Okay. All right. I know that you've gone on the record of late talking about Gilda.
Went on with one person, and he said, "Did you know about it?" And I said, "No, I just had no idea." And then he asked me some things, and I told him how I felt. But that's the only thing I knew.
Did you feel that after that was done, did you think that I could say some more things that I didn't tell him there?
There's always more.
How did you feel? I mean, is this something that you have been thinking about when you heard? Because I know it's not a whole bunch of the Gilda's clubs. I know that it's just a couple regional ones. There's one in Wisconsin, and there's a few others.
Well, I'll tell you how I felt when he first said it. I'm picturing that Gilda was hearing it too. And I think she would have been very sad, thinking, why would they do that? How could they do that? And I thought, it's sort of a crime that they couldn't figure out Gilda's club and then put down their, what's the name of it, the other thing about?
Something about the cancer, just something very generic.
Yeah, they've got it there, and there's no reason why they can't have both. But I would certainly put Gilda first, Gilda's club, and then below that, it's like I wrote a book recently, and I call it Something to Remind You By, and below it, A Perilous Romance. I'm not trying to promote that. I'm just saying lots of books, lots of articles have a sub underneath it, and there's no reason why to take her name off. Now you could say, well, I'm not saying you, but people might say, especially the ones who want to take it off, that a lot of kids wouldn't know who Gilda was. I would say that the majority of adults would know, but that if they didn't, if they've never seen Saturday Night Live, for instance, or whatever, they'd find out from other people. But it doesn't matter, even if they never heard of her. As long as they see her name, see the picture, and then see underneath what it's all about. I don't have that little title underneath, but you must have it there.
I think it was something very regional, like the Madison Cancer Research type of.
Yeah.
I was certainly impacted by that. I grew up watching Saturday Night Live, and I remember the Lisa Lubner Todd sketch was like my all-time favorite. And when I saw that, I turned to my wife. I said, I've got to write something about this because, they're forsaking, Gilda Radner's legacy, even if no one knows. I mean, you have to keep reminding people who other people. I mean, I even know who Lou Gehrig was, and that was way before my time.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I felt that way. I just thought it was, I could say, as her husband, who was her husband, that it's an insult. But I wouldn't want to get into that kind of thing. I would say, I think it would hurt her feelings terribly if she were watching what you're doing. But there's no reason to hurt her or anyone else who loved her, and there are millions who do. If you just say Gilda's club, and then underneath what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy not to. It's I would say it's ignorant not to.
Where do you live now?
Connecticut.
Now, are you active in the local Gilda's club there?
No, there is no Gilda's club in Stamford. There is one in White Plains.
Okay.
I've never been there, but it took Joanna Bull and myself 4.5 years to get the one in New York going. Mm-hmm. And it did take a lot of time to raise the money and get people to know and all those things. But I thought, well, I could take a year out of my life, and we'll find the right place and all that. But it took 4.5 years. But we had more and more people coming to help us. Came from England, from all over the place to help us. It was wonderful.
When did you first meet Gilda?
I'm in here and I'm talking. I first met Gilda when Sidney Poitier wanted me to play in a movie he was going to do called Hanky Panky. And he said, do you want to come with me to New York because Gilda Radner is in a play there and you could see. I said, I don't need to go to New York to see it. I see her on Saturday Night Live, and I think she'd be wonderful for it. But you're going to have to rewrite her part because the one that's in there now isn't her kind of material. Well, he didn't do it. I mean, I love him, so I'm not trying to say that it was ignorant. I'm just saying maybe he was rushed. But she wanted to do it. And you say, when did I meet her? On the first night of filming, it was outdoors near the Hudson River. And I was in my tuxedo for the part of the film that we were going to do. And then a car drove up with her husband. And she came out, and we said, hello, 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 and she started to cry. A little later, I said, why are you crying? And she said, because I know I'm going to marry you.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, we're going a little fast here, huh? And then we started to work together in the film for 3 months, and in Arizona, and all over the place. And then the film was over, and we were outside of L.A. at an airplane place where she was going to take off to go back home to Connecticut, and she was crying again, and I kissed her goodbye. She got on the plane, and I went back to my house. I had a small but nice cottage, and I was sort of saying, oh, thank goodness it's over, because she was driving me crazy. And she was so active about everything and the things that she felt, and her crying, her laughing, her everything. I said, I'm free now. I'm free. And I went out the next morning. I got orange juice and milk and more tea and things. And I came back early evening, and I started walking across my living room floor. And I suddenly dropped to my knees and started weeping that she wasn't there. And I didn't know how I could go without her. As much as she drove me crazy, but that was different. So she said to me, if you ever want to get in touch with me, tell my manager, Bernie Brillstein, the ducks are in the pond. I said, you really want me to say that? She said, yes, say that. He'll know what you're talking about. I said, I called Bernie. I said, the ducks are in the pond. He said, oh, okay. I understand. And then, because she was married and not happy, she liked him, but didn't love him. She went out to a booth, a telephone booth, to call me. And I said, come. come. And she did. She came. And that's how we were together for quite a while. But, well, more than quite a while. We were together for a long while. And she kept talking about marriage and marriage. And I said, maybe, one day, maybe. Wait, take it easy. Don't push. Let's see where we are with each other first.
Had you been married before?
I had been, yeah. I was not happily, but I was married before.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty young, too.
And you're very happily married now.
I'm very, very happily, more than I ever dreamed.
How long did that take until you, was there a long mourning period after Gilda had died?
Oh, wait, now, you got to Gilda's dying, right?
No, we don't have to get there. I'm
Anyway, as it turned out, we were going to, we were going to go to France, and her little dog was with us, and she saw the dog eating something on the floor in this little room that they gave us privately. And she said, I don't know what he's eating. And it turned out to be some kind of insect thing. And she said, I can't go with you, honey. I can't. I've got to go to a vet. And she said, you go ahead. You're tired. We just finished all this work, and I'll call you. I know where you're going to be in France and all. And she stayed for a week because the dog had to get injections once a day for a week. I went to New York to visit my sister, who was going through breast cancer. And then I got on a plane and I went to California, and I went to France, and it was my birthday, and there was a beautiful present of 2 paintbrushes and a box of paints, because she knew I wanted watercolor. And she said something that really won me over. She said, I know you love me, and you know I love you, so let's not worry about it. Well, I was waiting for something like that for a year and a half. I didn't know if I'd ever find it. And then when we came back, we got married. Well, we got married in France, actually, but it was because she said that. And then shortly after, she had these feelings in her thighs, and she went to a couple of doctors. Well, she's a very excited, wonderful, little neurotic. It'll go away. Well, 9 or 10 months later, she was given the blow, stage 4 ovarian cancer. I asked, well, that's all you need to know about that part.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Then it was 2 years, just about 2 years. I thought that she would make it. No matter what people said, what doctors said, I thought, no, she's going to make it. And then 3 weeks before she died, she came up to me in my cottage wearing a robe and said, here's something for you. Kiss me like a stranger. Maybe you could use that title someday.
Mm.
And I didn't know what she was talking about. I didn't know what it meant. And then she died.
Mm.
And when I did my first book, I called it Kiss Me Like a Stranger, because it had to do with, well, it was a good reason to have that as a title. And then her to help her find a way to present the hard of hearing who are out of town and couldn't afford to come into New York. And she was very funny and helped me. She gave me her script, and I said, "This is going to close on page 4." The way Zerma Stillion told me, and the producers, I said, "There's no comedy in it, and you've got to have some comedy." And so we met in my favorite restaurant in New York, and she brought her audio, what do you call it, just to put it on the table and you talk into it. And I improvised, and she gave me all kinds of things to do. What if you're chewing gum and you want to talk to someone who is deaf? Or what if you've got a mustache that's halfway over your upper lip? Or what if you're standing in the shadows and you're talking to them? And anyway, we went on like that for 2 times, 2 weeks in a row. And then I called her and said, "Let's meet again," because she lived in New York. And I said, "This time, leave the camera." Well, it wasn't a camera. What do you call it?
The recorder.
Leave the recorder at home. And that's when we had our first date. And we got married, and we've been married for 21 years. Happier than I've ever been. And we talk about Gilda a lot because she'd never met Gilda.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about Gilda, as much as I wished, didn't bother her at all. You know, if we'd been together and Gilda was there or in another city but around, but it wasn't. She always wanted to do anything that would help. And that's when Gilda's Club came about.
Mm-hmm.
And I say 4.5 years it took. Anyway, it worked out, and I said to Joanna Bull, who was the one who was in charge of everything, we came back from Chicago after doing a big party for Gilda to raise money. And when we got on a plane coming home, I told Joanna, "I can't do it anymore. I've OD'd." And she said, "I understand it. Go about your business. Go back to your acting. Go back to whatever you want."
Mm-hmm.
So I always wanted to keep in touch with, but not close. I mean, I didn't want to go and tell them what to do and, "No, that's not good," and all things like that. But I was just happy to find out that there was 1, and then 2 or 3, and then 5 or 6, then 1 in England, and then 2 in Canada, and it came out to about 16 Gilda's Clubs altogether, and that made me very happy. But then, 3-4 days ago, when I heard this stuff, he was a man who worked for a paper in Madison, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Did you know that they wanted to take out Gilda's name?" And I said, "No, I didn't have any idea about it." I said, "It's a crime. Gilda would be crying if she heard it. But why can't they just put that famous thing that you got underneath Gilda's Club?"
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't say yes or no because he wasn't in charge of it. I said, "Well, I hope that they'll do it." If I'd heard it from anyone from the Gilda's Club in Madison, Wisconsin, I would have been a little harsher.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Do you ever get back to Wisconsin? I know you grew up in Milwaukee.
No.
A long time ago.
Last time I was there, It was to receive some award. I forget, but I really went because a doctor I knew and I went to a meeting of nurses who were talking about cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to answer some questions about Gilda, and that's the reason I went.
Mm. So that made sense.
That's the last time I was in Milwaukee. That was a while ago.
I'm really thrilled that you called, and after I read those remarks, I thought that that's all that you would possibly have to say. But this was really amazing and very moving, and I'm grateful for your having called.
You're very welcome. I'm glad that you did.
And it'll probably come out beginning of next week.
Oh, whenever. I'll be happy to hear it.
Well, thank you so much, and it was a great thrill to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.